Well, here we are. Such a wonderful opportunity to be with you, Deborah Steel. Today is a beautiful day, and we are filming here in Waterford, Connecticut, Stories Worth Telling. And I know I started this show because my mom at 92 said to me she didn't make a difference in her life. And I think that what I wanted to do is to give everybody an opportunity to tell their story so that you can understand that you are leaving a legacy and that you have lived a valuable life. So today, Deborah, you are here from Olney, Maryland is where your home is, correct?
Correct.
So thank you for coming up to visit and to be on the show. So we know where you're living now, but tell me a little bit about where have you been previously to living in Olney, Maryland?
I grew up in Trenton, New Jersey. Lived there 18 years, went off to college outside of Boston, finished in 4 years, and then stayed another 6 years working in that area.
So 10 years in Boston, and you never developed that Boston accent, huh? Like Pock-you-ca and all that, yeah.
Yeah, I've got a thick enough Jersey accent. You can't overcome it.
Oh, really? Okay, yeah. So there you go. So what did you do after you graduated, and what did you get your degree in?
I got my degree in early childhood education, and I was a kindergarten teacher at a daycare center.
How did you like that?
It was challenging.
Yeah, what was challenging about it?
Getting the kids to focus on the educational materials as opposed to just the games.
Oh.
Because they were in kindergarten, we had certain standards they had to meet.
Of course.
By the end of the year, so. And it was an open classroom, so it was pretty loose in terms of discipline.
So this is back in the 70s when the open classroom concept existed, and there was a lot of extraneous noise and ambient information and movement and energy all the time that was probably conflicting with what you were trying to accomplish.
Yeah, I think that's true.
Yeah.
The children had too much to look at. They were overstimulated.
Oh.
But they were still fun.
Of course, it was fun, but a little bit challenging. So 10 years in Boston, you got your degree in early childhood, and then what happened?
Then I decided that I couldn't make a living on the wages in Boston, and I decided I needed to go back to school. And so I applied to various Masters of Public Administration because I knew I wanted to stay in public service. My thought then was that I would go and run a youth center in Vermont.
Oh, nice. You still could, Deb. You know, what did we say? Colonel Sanders started his new entrepreneurship when he was 68 years old. So, you know, you still could run that youth center up in Vermont. So that's still a possibility. So that was your dream when you left. Wow, that's really an amazing dream. So public administration and public service, tell me more about that.
The areas that I've been interested in is the intersection of telecommunications and management administration in the federal environment.
Let's talk about that. What does that mean? Telecommunications and the management of government?
Right. When I started in the government, computers and communications were separate.
Okay.
Completely separate technologies. Nobody kind of realized that they mesh, they go together.
Of course.
So while I came in at the tail end of that and the very beginning of the merger of the two technologies and the two offices and a restructuring based on staff having to have a broader view of the technology and understanding the full universe, so that they were at overseas posts, but so that they can maintain communications between the Washington headquarters and the embassies around the world.
Okay, so you had a pretty mixed international experience with communicating with people from all over the world. What was that like?
Very interesting. That
Tell
was
me.
the most interesting part of my job.
Tell me.
People did the same things in different ways, but came up with the same results.
What's an example of that? You can think on it.
Okay.
No, well, I mean, if there's something that you're coming to, it looked like you almost had a thought.
Well, for example, there are several U.S. agencies, including the State Department, which is a federal agency, but there's also nonprofits and non-governmental organizations. And all of that needs to be coordinated
Right.
for, say, if it's a development program or a river hygiene program. So the State Department person takes the lead and coordinates with all of the players, and that's done via oversight from the people back in the United States.
Okay.
So they need telecommunications and the ability to print off policy documents, send back situation reports in the event of an unrest of some kind.
I got it. But it sounds like you said they have the same kind of results, and I would imagine there's cultural differences, there's language differences, there's economic I mean, all kinds of differences. How do they get the same result?
I guess I was thinking not in terms of cultural changes, but administration of the U.S. people, the administration and management of the U.S. people, so that the right resources can go to the right place.
Got it. So basically, project management is project management wherever you go and however you do it.
Yes.
To the same outcome, perhaps, where you're instituting or helping to access or implement change at some level with policy and with administration. Okay. And you did this for, well, your job at the government level kind of changed and morphed over the years, did it not?
It did, yes.
So what else did you do besides the telecommunication and government and communication?
I was senior advisor to the chief information officer, which was still about technology, and I was chief advisor to the chief financial officer.
Okay, so you know all about money and you have a lot of information, right? So those are good things to have on your wheelhouse, I would say. And what did you do in those positions? What was that like?
I mostly examined programs that were in place. In technology, it was mostly replacement programs with a small security element that's increased over the years. We've all just read about the cyber attack last year. So I don't think our security is actually keeping up with the threat, but nevertheless, there it is.
So being a senior advisor in those kind of capacities, you have a wheelhouse full of great information as far as how government runs and operates. What's one thing that you think we should institute as a change?
I think the hiring process should be changed. Right now, it's based on merit, which is a good thing, but it's very old-fashioned process, and it kind of goes from one person to a person to another person, and meanwhile, all they're doing is looking at the paper candidate and the real candidate, and their approaches and thoughts and skills don't really come across on paper.
Oh, of course not.
So I think that getting to the interview stage earlier, like when they apply, you could at least give them a call back and...
Well, at least like a little video chat or something like that, because we always say you hire the resume, but you fire the person. And if the person was to come across somehow, and we have the telecommunication, we have the digital capabilities to do that, But again, like what you're saying, we're not accessing those things and making those things possible. Yeah, interesting. I like that. And just think how much more opportunity young talent would have if they could just get their foot in the door, or their face on the screen in this case, right?
Yeah, their face on the screen would go miles towards reforming and improving how the government finds its staff.
Oh, I like that. That's a great idea. We'll have to write our administration and tell them. And what else did you do? I know you were doing archives, and I thought that was really interesting. Can we talk a little bit about your archive work and experience there?
Sure. I was part of a project to preserve and access official government papers. That includes things like treaties, the Great Seal of the United States.
That's cool, Deb. I mean, that's really cool.
Situation reports from various hotspots around the world. The moon rockets, the Nixon, what's the president's plane called? Air Force One?
Right.
Yeah. So they have Nixon's Air Force One, because they build a new one every time there's a new president. They have ocean and space data, and a lot of these things can't be printed off and archived in a box.
Right.
So this project was to figure out how to take all that electronic information, which was all done on different systems at different times. So some was accessible, some wasn't accessible, some that software is not around anymore. So you need to get a programmer to come in who can reverse engineering things. So that was really interesting.
And you said that if you were to get another degree, that you would like to get a degree in computer science,
Yes.
or that you could build systems and software. Is that what you're thinking?
Yes.
Along that line? And that I can see now why you would want to do that based on your previous experience and some frustration of accessing and then consolidating that information, right? So that's really interesting. And I know you developed some really beautiful pamphlets, for lack of a better word, or documents, I guess, that were around the historic in nature, around different museums and points of interest that our government helps to preserve and protect. Is that true?
Yes.
Okay. So, Deb, then you just retired a few years ago from doing this kind of work. Was there something else that you evolved into that you'd like to share or talk about in your professional career?
I guess I didn't really want to take a real job. So I've been babysitting a couple of school-age kids after they get home from school.
Recently? Wow. Wow. And that must be really stimulating, though, because you have great conversations with them. I think one of your talents is that you're a great conversationalist and you have so much historic information and perspective. But so now you're with young adults.
Yeah. And I was picking them up at the bus after school, but this year has been a little odd.
Right. Pandemic and all.
Yeah, pandemic and all. So now that it's kind of springtime and they're on a hybrid with school, I'm just picking them up and taking them to their after-school activities. The younger one plays baseball, the older one plays softball. And so it's been fun so far this year to watch their skills come back to them after such a long hiatus.
Okay, so did you see a lag that occurred with them? Because I'm on the Board of Education in town, and we talk a lot about what's going to happen as a result, and thinking that perhaps we're not even going to know the full impact or the effect of what's happened with COVID and the lack of personal interaction and communication. Are you seeing other lags with these youngsters?
I'm not sure if they're lags.
Okay.
But they definitely don't like virtual schooling. They miss the energy and activity of the other people in the class. And they miss the one-on-one with the teacher.
Of course.
And they really have been just in the house for an entire year. but they're ready to be done.
Yeah, I think everybody is. It's been just a really tough year for so many people at so many levels and what's gone on. So now you've got quite a few hobbies though, don't you? Tell me some of your hobbies. What are some things that you enjoy?
I knit.
You knit. That's amazing.
I cook.
You'd like to cook. I like that. Yeah.
I'm in a book group, which is fun. And I have a friend who we go on kind of adventures around the metropolitan area.
Nice.
To find out new little shops that we didn't know about, and go to a couple of old standbys, and so that's fun.
That's lovely. That's lovely. Now tell me, you used to do some knitting. I thought that was just so magnanimous in nature. You knitted hats for premature babies. Was that right?
Yep.
How big were they?
The hats or the babies?
Well, the babies were probably 2 or 3 pounds, right? So they're little tiny heads.
Yeah, little tiny hats. The way you make them is you make a little square.
Okay.
And then you go up one side of the stitches and pull it, kind of like you would do a garbage can.
Okay.
And then sew down the other part of it that's open.
Oh, interesting. And that's a hat for a preemie.
That's a hat for a preemie.
How many of those do you think you made?
I have no idea.
No idea. Just tons and tons and tons. But probably used really soft, like baby blanket.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of yarn when you did that. Yeah. Now, there's a group in East Lyme that's called Stitch Happens. That's a really cute little group, and they get together and they do stitching and knitting and crocheting, and I think even needlepoint, any of those fine things. I think you've done some of those too, haven't you? Cross stitch and...
I tried, and then I gave it to my mother to finish.
Oh. And you kind of are carrying on a legacy. Your mother was quite the knitter with all the beautiful things that she made.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was really nice. Right. So you said you like to travel too?
Yes.
Okay. Well, we haven't traveled too much in the last year or so, but what are some of your dream vacations that you took in the past that you really enjoyed?
I would like to go to Crete because I'm interested in the Minoan era and I've forgotten the name of the bull that's there, but there's like a god bull, and I mean, not in real life. This is ancient.
Right.
I'd like to go to Rome. I've been watching a lot of documentaries during the pandemic, and at one point I started watching travel shows.
Nice.
Because at least I could pretend I was there.
Exactly. It's a vicarious experience, and I think that's why people watch those shows and why those shows are produced. You feel like you've gone to Rome when you see the cobblestone streets and the tall structures and the beautiful Colosseums and all that's there. So it's a really nice opportunity to have that experience. So no, that's great. And you've been to Greece before, if I remember correctly.
Yes, briefly, a long time ago.
But what an amazing trip that must have been. Greece is such a beautiful country with all the islands and the food, and the people are so friendly.
Yeah, I didn't, we weren't there very long, but I really liked it. We were mostly on the peninsula, the Peloponnese, and going around to various ruins. Also the Acropolis, of course. So.
Okay, very nice. So then you said you like to cook. Tell me about some of your gourmet things that you like to make that come out of your kitchen.
I'm going to give a shout out to the New York Times cooking app.
Okay, okay.
I get an email every week with 5 things to cook. I don't always read it, but yeah. For springtime, I made a bunch of stuff with asparagus and leeks and shallots, I think it is, that are newly sprouting.
Nice.
Oh, yeah, asparagus, I said that, yeah.
Right.
So I've done some dishes where you marinate chicken and put it on a sheet pan and then put the vegetables around it and roast it all together.
Oh, nice. Yeah, yeah.
So that's
Well,
a
I
lot
guess
of fun.
I'm going to have to follow that app or get that app, the New York Times cooking thing.
And I adapted a recipe for the most delicious chocolate cookies you ever met.
Oh, tell me about these chocolate cookies.
They're very easy to make.
I like easy.
They take margarine, cocoa powder, flour, sugar, and a tad of vanilla. And they're very brownie. Oh, and cocoa. They're very brownie tasting, and they're a little bit chewable, and they're really good.
Oh gosh, sounds like something. My stomach's going to start growling here in a little bit. Yeah, thank you. And your book group, tell me, is it an eclectic group? Is it men and women? Tell me about your book group.
Right now it's 6 women.
Okay.
It has been more and not less, I don't think. Most of the people, if not all except me, have been together for 30-odd years.
Wow, that's
yeah.
a long time.
Yeah.
Can you almost anticipate when someone's going to say, if you've been together that long and you're discussing different points on the topic?
I'm sorry, what's the question?
Can you anticipate sometimes what someone's going to say based on the book and their history and how much you know them, how well you know them?
There was one woman who I could do that with, but she left the group. And the others are not that predictable.
That sounds like a great group.
The group structure is that we rotate houses, back when we could do that, and whoever house it was would make dinner.
Nice.
So it was really fun. Get all these different dinners, every couple of months.
And did you cook food that was related to the theme of the book somehow? If they talked about, I don't know if it was something like Tuscany, some Italian food, or at least some Italian wine, or something that would kind of bring that ambiance into the house.
Yeah, I did that once with Moroccan food, and it was fun, and it was related to the book that we were reading, which title I don't remember.
Now, my husband and I are in a hiking group, and there's a Books to Boots, I think was the name of the group that was going to go out. So they're putting their boots on, and then they're going to talk about a book, and then as they're walking through it, admiring all the fauna and the foliage and everything that they see along the way, kind of relating. So it's nice how people take one activity, and that's kind of what you did in your career, being with Telecommunications and Government, and melding those two things together. So,
yeah, I often say that the key to management is having successfully passed kindergarten.
Oh, because you learn all your rules in kindergarten.
Right,
Yeah.
you learn all your social rules, and people are more engaging, less fearful, less risk.
In that safe environment, is that what you're thinking?
Yeah. And once you get out into the real world management, there's a lot of politics, there's backbiting, there are just some plain rude people who maybe shouldn't be in the position that they're in.
You experienced some of that, I'm sure, in your career when you were a professional person working on behalf of the government and what we've done, right?
In the early part of my career, I was working with the Chief Information Officer. We had staff meetings. And so at one staff meeting, one of the things I advised on is projects and whether they should be funded or not. So one of the people in the organization was talking to me about his project and the trouble that it was in. and how he wasn't sure it should continue. Well, I was the one that recommended whether things got continued or not.
Of course.
And I think that at the time, I'm pretty short, I'm pretty petite, and I look younger than I am, I hope. And so I said if he was dumb enough to tell me, I'm smart enough to use it.
Oh, wow. And what was his response?
I didn't tell him that. But I used it in my
discussion with your superior, and then
Right.
was the whole thing kibosh then?
Yes.
Ooh, yeah, yeah. Well, it was well advised given the information that you got, and there's a certain talent or skill that goes with being able to have somebody tell you things, and if you're a good listener, people will tell you things. So
Yeah, that's true.
That's
I
what
think
happens.
that's true.
yeah. So tell me, you have a daughter and a granddaughter. Tell me about them. I know they're the love and light of your life.
My daughter is 24, and my granddaughter is almost 4. They both live with me.
Uh-huh.
I babysit my granddaughter 3 days a week.
Nice.
And
Tell me about some of her joy that she brings to you. What are some cute little instances and examples of her light and love?
She likes to play a game neighbor. And so we'll play that we're 2 different neighbors, and we have to knock there's a tent. We have to knock on the tent. Meanwhile, she has taken all of her stuff and put it inside the tent. So she's got her little work set up with a little pen and scribble, but she feels very important about it. And she has a play laptop, and she'll type and say, "You have to go away now. I'm doing my work."
She's probably heard that before, right? Where, yeah, you need to pay attention to yourself. I need to get this accomplished, and oh, that's cute. That's adorable.
Yeah. And my daughter's a veterinary technician.
Lovely.
And loves animals.
Oh, good with animals. That's nice.
Yeah.
That's great. Good for you, Deb. You've just done a beautiful job, in your life and your career and sharing who you are. So I've just been tickled to be able to have you as a guest. And is there any last thing that you would like to talk about or say? We just have a couple minutes left before we wrap up.
I hope this is not controversial. It's just my opinion.
Okay.
But I think what people need to remember in the general public today is that there are many paths to God.
Right.
And fighting over which path is the best, or feeling like you have God's instruction to move out or start a war.
Right.
I wish that people would see that it's all one planet. We're all human beings. There are many paths to getting us to a happy place.
Right. Yeah, I know, I agree with that. Like the golden rule is the same whether you're Christian, Muslim, Jewish, it doesn't matter. The golden rule is be kind to other people, treat other people the way you want to be treated, and I think have respect and be generous in thought and deed, and be truly grateful for the gifts that you've been given and the life that we have. And we need to share space too. I think we need to share our planet and share and take care of it. The environment is in jeopardy right now, so we need to do all of those things. No, I agree with you completely. So thank you for that. That was really, really nice. And thank you so much for being here with me and sharing all of these special, precious moments and ideas and thoughts. And I learned more about you than I thought I knew pretty much everything, but here we are. There's always a lesson to be learned, so thank you for that.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me on the show.
Please come again.